Wow, what a fight. I feel emotionally and physically absolutely gone and drained having watched that. I think more exhausted than either Vladimir Klitschko or Anthony Joshua. Having sat through that, Joshua stops Vladimir Klitschko in 11 rounds in what was a truly fantastic fight in the end. There were some quiet rounds, there were some very defensive rounds, some rounds where nothing happened, but there were other rounds where there was huge action and there was drama throughout. It was a very, very tight fight all the way through. The first 4 rounds, you could maybe give Joshua a very, very slight edge, but they were very competitive. Klitschko very much on the back foot, giving lots of footwork, giving lots of movement, using the size of the ring. Joshua trying to come forward. When Klitschko was able to establish his jab and come forward and put Joshua on his back foot, maybe Klitschko was getting a slight edge. Joshua seemed to be throwing far less punches when Klitschko was coming forward and Klitschko was on his back foot. But it was very, very tight. 5th round, Joshua comes out really, really, really aggressive and he buzzes Klitschko and he gets a knockdown against Vladimir Klitschko. Klitschko looked out on his feet, to be honest, in the 5th round, and Joshua swarmed all over him trying to get the stoppage, and if anything, it appeared that Joshua punched himself out in scenes that were not too dissimilar to the early part of the Dillian Whyte fight. Joshua became very low volume, and he was swinging quite wildly at times. Klitschko was able to counter him, land a big punch, caught him on the chin, and to be fair, Joshua took it well, but it seemed that punch sapped the energy out of him. He didn't look like he was on, he was about to get knocked out maybe, but he seemed absolutely zapped. And it then followed 2 or 3 rounds of real Klitschko dominance. There was one round in particular, I think it was the 6th, where Vladimir Klitschko was able to drop Anthony Joshua, and it well looked to me like Vladimir Klitschko could have forced a stoppage in that 6th round. At that point, for me, Joshua was out on his feet, and with a minute to go, I genuinely thought Vladimir Klitschko was going to win the fight by knockout. But Joshua showed incredible heart and the heart of a champion and incredible determination to stay in that fight, because the vast majority of heavyweights, even top 10 heavyweights, would have been gone in that round. Round sort of 7 to 9, I probably scored to Klitschko in what became sort of more tentative, low volume chess match rounds. Going into the 10th, I probably had Klitschko by about 2 rounds up. Thought Klitschko was looking quite nice for the win. Understand that Josh was 5 to 2 against with the bookmakers, So Klitschko at that point, after 9 or 10 rounds, a very, very strong favourite in play with the bookmakers to win the fight. Joshua comes out and has a far better 10th round. In the 11th round, he appears to have fully got his second wind. He comes out firing, comes out very, very, very aggressive. And the key to Joshua's success is, at any time when he was kept at range by Vladimir Klitschko, for me, he was struggling to pick up the rounds. When he was able to impose himself and come forward and start putting punches together, he was much more effective. And he did that in the 5th when he got the knockdown of Klitschko, and he did it again in the 11th. He wasn't standing outside trying to trade jabs. He wasn't, trying to be on his back foot. When he actually came forward and got in Vladimir Klitschko's engine room and rushed Vladimir Klitschko and made Vladimir Klitschko panic and go back, he was winning the rounds and winning them nicely. Klitschko showed a tremendous heart and also a tremendous chin in that 11th round. He got up time and time and time again and ended up getting stopped on his feet. Several times it looked like the fight was over. But Klitschko, what a heart, and both guys, what a heart, and both guys in this fight showed great chins. A lot of people say Vladimir Klitschko's got no chin. A lot of people say Joshua's got no chin. I myself have questioned Joshua's chin on numerous occasions on this channel. But Joshua showed a very, very good chin in this fight. There was several shots he ate from Vladimir Klitschko in this fight, several right hands, several left hooks that I thought going into this fight would knock Anthony Joshua out. And sure, there were times in the fight he was buzzed, there were times in the fight he was down, but he showed a great, great chin. Both men also showed, good powers of recovery. If you look at the 6th, 7th round, it's almost impossible to believe this is a fight that Anthony Joshua would have won. Joshua looked absolutely out in his feet. I thought the muscle was weighing him down. I thought that was the fight over. Vlad looked fit. Vlad looked strong. Vlad shook off that 5th round knockout really, really well. But Joshua's second win kicked in. He truly showed immense physical conditioning in order to get back into this fight and to come on strongly. And by the 11th round, when he started really getting that second win, the punches started getting put together nicely, and he really got into his groove and got into his flow. And when he was able to do that, he looked very, very effective. And Vladimir Klitschko, was out of there. A few things for Joshua. This was a tremendous step up. The Wladimir Klitschko in there tonight, was an elite heavyweight. That was not a shot fighter. That was not a guy who'd got old overnight. That was not a guy who was past it. Full credit goes to Anthony Joshua. This was a step up from fringe top 20 level guys to the elite of boxing. And he had a few scary moments in there, Joshua, but he proved he was at that level. I give him immense credit for winning this fight. I really do. He had a few scary moments in there, but you probably should have a few scary moments when you're stepping up from Dominic Breazeale and Eric Molina through to Wladimir Klitschko. Joshua had never been against an opponent with a jab. Joshua had never been against an opponent who put him on his back foot. Joshua had never been against an opponent who hits as hard as Wladimir Klitschko. And in his own way, he answered a hell of a lot of questions in there tonight. And really showed a lot of ability to keep going and fight strong into the 11th round. And actually, to come back into a fight that was slipping it away and come back into a fight that he was really losing. Wladimir, from his perspective, I thought he fought a smart fight. I think he will regret, looking back on this, not getting Joshua out in the 6th round. I think in hindsight, that 6th round was a round that he could have easily, stopped the fight if he'd been able to put punches together a bit easier. But it was a good performance from Wladimir Klitschko. He just wasn't the best man on the night. I thought Wladimir was sometimes a bit guilty of leading with the left-hand hook too much. I actually thought he was having far more effect with the right-hand cross, especially when he threw the left jab, right cross. I'd have liked to have seen a lot more of that from him, and I think it would have been very effective. He telegraphs that left-hand hook quite noticeably because he kind of dips into it and has a look and then throws the left-hand hook. And what you'll notice is towards the end of the fight, Joshua was anticipating that. And every time Wladimir geared up to throw that left-hand hook, AJ would simply duck down under the hook and would evade Wladimir Klitschko's attack. And, for me, Klitschko wasted a lot of punches and a lot of time leading with that left-hand hook. It would have been better off if he'd, at times in the fight, scrapped that and gone left jab, right-hand cross, because I thought Joshua was reading that punch very, very nicely. And I thought Klitschko was actually having more effect with his straight punches and his classic 1-2 work than with that left hook. I also thought, AJ, there were several rounds where, he fought for the first 30 seconds of the round. He came out very strong. He came out swinging, throwing a lot of punches, and then he seemed to slightly gas. And I think that is something, I don't want to be critical of Anthony Joshua in this video, but I think that's something he's going to have to look at. Obviously, this was his career heaviest, and it didn't stop him from winning tonight, but there were several rounds in this fight where he came out very, very hard and aggressive in the first 30 seconds. And what that led to was him looking slightly low energy. Obviously, he's a very well-conditioned, fit athlete, and the minute between rounds allowed him to recover to an extent. And the minute between rounds, and the several rounds that passed at a low volume allowed him to come back into the fight and win by knockout. Since the fight's ended, it's only been 8 minutes. I've already had 30, 40 tweets and Facebooks asking me to compare this win to Tyson Fury's win. I'm not going to do that on this video because this video is about Anthony Joshua's success, and that's probably a conversation for another day. But what I will say is styles make fights, and Joshua has beaten Wladimir Klitschko, and he's beaten him in a very, very different way to how Tyson Fury's beaten him. He's had Klitschko on his backside 3 or 4 times over the course of the fight. He's outstrengthed Wladimir Klitschko, he's outgunned Wladimir Klitschko, and he deserves massive credit for it. Joshua's answered a lot of the questions out there about him tonight. This was a huge step up. He was going into massively uncharted territory. He'd never been beyond 7 or 8 rounds before. He'd never really been clipped other than that Dillian Whyte fight. And he now holds 3 belts, and he probably is the biggest name in world boxing, in my opinion. I know people say Canelo Alvarez, I know people say Manny Pacquiao. I think Joshua has to be right up there. A big fight night at Wembley tonight. All of my non-boxing friends have been talking to me about it. All of my boxing friends are obsessed about it. And, real credit goes to Anthony Joshua for this performance. Very, very interested to hear you people's thoughts on this fight. How were you scoring it at the time of the stoppage? What did you make of Joshua's performances? Where do you think Anthony Joshua goes from here? What a fight. Leave your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd very much appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. so you can check out all of my other stuff, and if you take the time to click the thumbs up button to like this video and give it more visibility. As your comments, hit the like and please press subscribe. Many thanks as always for tuning in.